Life is uncertain. It's okay to feel stressed, anxious, worried, or frustrated. It's normal. With CalHope's free and secure mental health resources, it's easy to get the help you and your loved ones need when you need it the most. Call our warm line at 833-317-4673 or live chat at calhope.org today.
Ahoy! And welcome to the Boating Hour with Captain Rick. The Boating Hour brings you the latest and greatest essential information about everything that sails, floats, or motors upon the high seas of Southern California. From landlubbers to old salts, there'll be something for everyone. So climb aboard and get ready to sail with Captain Rick.
Ahoy out there, and welcome to the Boating Hour. I'm Captain Rick, and I want to thank you for joining us here on AM 870. We're here every Saturday at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and please be sure to visit us on the web at theboatinghour.com. And now on Instagram and Facebook, The Boating Hour with Captain Rick. Thanks to our sponsor for our show today, For a Healthy Gut, the best probiotic on the market, Livia One Probiotics, natural, organic, and allergen-free. Well, we've had a lot of wonderful guests. We got a great one coming up for you today. But as you're listening today, tomorrow in King Harbor, they have a sail-a-thon at the King Harbor Yacht Club. We've talked about their charity events, and we've had many members from the King Harbor Yacht Club. Well, tomorrow, Sunday, March 26th, in the afternoon from 2 to 6, the sail-a-thon and open house at the King Harbor Yacht Club. Make sure to get down there if you're anywhere near Redondo Beach. An open house and a barbecue dinner and all kinds of live entertainment. Lots of fun. And, of course, out of that club, Boat America classes taught by the Coast Guard Auxiliary. And we have auxiliarists coming on this show. In the next couple of shows, we'll talk about the Coast Guard and the Coast Guard auxiliarists. Well, today, I've got a special guest for you next week. Back with a vengeance, that one of the best boat shows in the country, and the producer of the Bart Hall boat shows down in Long Beach. Bart, thanks for coming on the Boating Hour with Captain Rick.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, it's really exciting to have you on, and I'll tell you, to see this show back. I understand that you filled out the vendors are all back, coming out, and with a couple years of lockdowns and nothing going on, that must be exciting for you to see that this is going to be full force.
Oh, it's really hard for me to explain it fully, Rick, to tell you the truth. I just, it's what my family has done for 75 years. My mother and father, Red and Lois Hall, had this idea in 1946. My father was in the business of ushers, ticket sellers, and gatemen for all the sporting events in Southern California.
Oh, wow.
And he went to his boss, his name was Mel Morrison, who ended up being my godfather, and he went to him in 44, just toward the end of the war, and said, look, we do all this stuff for football and baseball. Why don't we do something for sportsmen? Why don't we do a sportsman show? And the famous answer from Mel was, what the heck? He didn't say heck, but what the heck's a sportsman show?
Wow.
So they started this thing in 1946 at Gilmore Stadium, which was a oval racetrack outdoors with telephone poles going up for lights. They did at night. They would do the racing. And my dad decided he was going to make it look really nice, so he cut down some pine boughs and he put them on the poles, and he didn't like the dirt track, so he had some sawdust dyed green, and he threw it on the track, and they had a 10-day show from April 6th to the 16th, and then it was great until the third day when it rained and all the dye came out of the sawdust and in everybody's socks and shoes. So we laughed about that for a long time. But we've been doing this now for, basically, it was the Hall shows that set the standards for all other outdoor recreation events in California and really in the Western United States and possibly across the nation. So we, in 2020, when we quit, the state shut down 2 days after our show ended at Long Beach. That year, we were the largest boat show in California. We were the largest fishing show in the nation. and one of the largest outdoor recreation shows in the world. So we were real pleased, and we were heading down to San Diego to do our show at Del Mar Fairgrounds, and then it all stopped. And so now this is the return, and we're just incredibly excited, nervous, excited, all that stuff. You know how you get.
Oh, I'm excited. The lockdowns really phased everybody. People couldn't go out. But although camping and boating, if you could get a hold of a camper or boater or a boat, from my friends that are in the boat business, they said they couldn't keep inventory because that was the one thing that they can do. So this should be a bonanza. People are going to be excited to get out there. And are the vendors able to come out there with inventory?
Well, here's the thing. Now you have to remember there was also some legal challenges involved in all this. So I wasn't able to really get back into producing shows until September of last year. Now, it is impossible to produce a show the size of Long Beach in that amount of time. But I was stupid enough to do 3 shows in that amount of time. And the first one I did, I booked space for a boat show at Pomona. And everybody says, well, what are you doing that for? The factory can't deliver boats. The dealers sell everything they have pre-sold. Everything that comes on the trucks is gone in a day. Well, you're wrong. But what happened in that intervening period was that the pipeline opened up, demand reduced, and so these dealers have a lot of boats that they ordered, and those boats are all coming now, and they have lots of inventory. So this will be actually our 3rd boat show of the year. We did Pomona in January. We did down in San Diego in February, and now here we are at the end of March up in Long Beach. And we have lots. I've never had so many boats at our shows ever, and they've sold a lot at every show, and they're really anxious to, reduce that excess inventory. So there's been some good deals made. I mean, I've seen some really good deals made at the show. So,
wow, that is exciting. I'll be there, of course, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday next week. So for me, I'm in the market for a Zodiac rib. So are they Zodiac coming?
Zodiac. Not necessarily Zodiac, but we have some good ribs coming. We've got some things there. We have 3 companies that are going to be able to show you products in that category, and you'll have a good selection.
Because what I like to do, I like to contribute my time, of course, sailing when I can, but I'm more of a dinghy sailor. I like to get out in the regattas, take pictures, and work on the Markset boat and help the race committee. And that's something that I like to do. And I've been doing this, sailing and helping out on race committees since I was a scout. I mean, this goes back ancient history as a scout. Well, let me ask you, let's talk about you a little bit. How did, with your dad, first of all, I had no idea this has been going on since after the war. So what, 75 years? Anniversary.
I mean, because of the COVID, 3 years of COVID, we lost. 2021 would have been our 75th, but now this is our 75th anniversary of producing a show. And yeah, it's pretty amazing, really. I mean, my mother and father had no template to do this in those days. They just did what they loved. And that's what we've done. We responded to the boating, fishing, outdoor recreation communities. And look, the first 35 years of these shows, we didn't sell anything. My dad wouldn't allow it.
Really?
Yep. Nope. We just showed. We were a show. And then it was me and a friend of mine who ended up actually working for me and being an integral part of these shows that convinced him to finally start selling stuff. And he did after about 35 years. And at that time, I had just started to work for him. And it wasn't called the Fred Hall Show in those days. It was called the Western Fishing, Tackle, and Boat Show. And so but there was a lot of competition around. There was a lot of other shows. And I said, Dad, look, people are asking each other, well, which one of their shows you're going to? And so we're going to that one produced by Fred Hall. we're going to the Fred Hall show. So I said, well, look, you got to change this name to Fred Hall because that's what everybody calls it. He says, oh, I don't want to do that. I said, yeah, you need to do that. And he did, and it was a marketing home run, and so we've been doing that ever since. And that's why legally, because of some things that occurred, we're not able to continue with my father's name. So we went through a big discussion about this. Should we call it something else? Should we go back to what we were? Or should we call it the Bart Hall Show so people can see a connection? And so that's what we've done. You know? But my father, it's funny, I heard a story. I've been hearing stories out there. Yeah, that kid, Bart Hall, he must have took his dad's name. Well, you know, unfortunately, my father's been dead for 30 years, so I've been running this thing, and people have been asking me to change the name the whole time, and I said, no, I can't do it. But now we have to do it, so we did, and here it is, the Bart Hall Shows, which is a continuation of the Hall family shows for the last 75 years.
Oh, that's interesting because out at the yacht clubs, where people are so excited everywhere I go, you know, the Hall shows are back, and I think I've heard on several occasions people say, well, I guess the old man retired and his son's taken over. So I didn't know you've been running this all these years and your dad had passed. But what a unbelievable thing that he started. I could just imagine with no template and nothing to go by. So he invented the show. So how did you growing up with this? I mean, did you camp and boat and fish and hunt? Is that what your young years were like?
I had no choice. Look, you have to remember, think back to 1946. There wasn't any TV. I mean, it was just starting. There really wasn't much radio either. There was some, not much. But the most important thing in those days were newspapers.
Sure.
And so who were the most important guys for us in newspapers? The sports writers. So what would my dad do? He would go up to the opening day of trout season, and he would camp on Rock Creek, and he would put up what he called the ideal camp. And he would get all the fancy stuff that was available at camping in those days, and he'd set up this ideal camp. I don't even think they had coolers because I think they cooled all of their drinks in the stream. And he would invite the sports writers up, and they would have dinner. He'd cook them steaks, and they'd talk about the shows and all that stuff. And then a few years after that, they started going down to McGee Creek Lodge, which is just on Crowley Lake down there. And I remember as a kid, now I'm older, and now I'm going through this the whole time. I'm a baby, and I'm sitting in these tents. I'm with it. My mother's with my father, and I'm there. And so I remember some of that as I got older. But I do remember when I was about 10 years old, I was watching all these old guys in the bar at McGee Creek. It was all made out of rock, and they're drinking whiskey and smoking cigars. And I think I want to do that when I grow up. So, yeah, I've been doing this my whole life. I've never missed an opening trout season up at in the Eastern Sierra. A lot of my friends are there. We have the largest Eastern Sierra roll of any show in the country. It's fantastic. And then I love to fish in the ocean. My dad and I used to go fish the piers. Mm-hmm. We fished from the shore. When we could get on a boat, we'd get on a boat. You know, as he got more famous and more popular, we got invited to boats, and then we ended up getting our own boat. We had a slip in Channel Islands, and I would take people out, and we had boats from the time I was like 10 years old. We had runabouts, and at one point I was a manufacturer's representative, and I represented Ranger bass boats, and so boating, fishing, outdoor recreation has been my entire life. And even when I had other jobs, I didn't always work for my dad. I had other jobs, but at showtime, you have to come help your father. So, okay, you go, you leave whatever you're doing and you go help your dad. And I remember one morning I was a musician actually, and a professional musician. I was doing quite well, but it was a bad lifestyle for a father and a husband. So I went next door to my father. I lived next door, and I said, Dad, I just quit being a musician. I need a job. And he just, what? He goes, well, I can't use you right now. I mean, this doesn't make enough money. I can't. But So about 5 years later, he called me, and at that time they were just about to make me a partner in my rep group, and he said, "Look, I need your help, finally." And I said, "Okay, Dad, what can you pay me?" And he offered me a third of what I was making, and there was a long silence on the phone. And then he said, "Look, you're not going to get rich, but you're going to have a great lifestyle." And I thank him for that, because he's been absolutely right. Dealing with the people who fish and who boat and who camp and who go outdoors, they're the most wonderful people in the world, and we need more of them on this earth, not less of them.
Oh, absolutely. Well, if you're just joining us now, you're listening to the Boating Hour. I'm Captain Rick. I'm here every Saturday at 4 p.m. Please be sure to visit us on the web at theboatinghour.com, where you can listen to our podcast and link to our many guests. As always, we're so very fortunate to have such wonderful guests. And for a healthy gut, the best probiotic that exists, Livia One, natural, organic, and allergen-free. And today, our exciting guest is Bart Hall from the Bart Hall Boat Show, or actually Outdoor Recreation, Fishing, Hunting, Camping, and Boat Show. What's the website, Bart? What's the website so people can go take a look?
It's hallshows.com. And, yeah, we are, that's what I mean. It's hard to call us what we are. I mean, we are the state's largest boat shows, but I think by the time we get through with this show, we will have displayed nearly 700 boats in 3 shows. So one boat dealer at this show has 30 of them. So if you want to spend a minute looking at each one of those, that'll take you a half an hour.
Wow. Well, I'm going to be there in the Coast Guard Auxiliary booth, right next to the Coast Guard. So they're there this year. So I'll be spending the weekend with a lot of my friends. Have either they're vendors or there's a whole group of people that are coordinating. I had one friend that's bringing his group. He asked for my radios. He asked if I could borrow a dozen, just the family service radios, because he's taking, I think it's the scout troop, and he wants every kid to have a radio so they don't get lost, because, they're going to run around and get lost, of course. And I'll be there, so it's going to be really exciting. So, yeah, I want to get back to you. So you grew up, buddy. I grew up, the most fondest memories of my life were either going out with my dad, camping, and I wasn't much of a fisherman, but we did go sailing, and I was a scout. So I looked forward to going to Catalina, down to San Diego, and all the scout trips. And that's how I started. So you must have just hung around with the greatest of friends, camping and fishing, and your dad must have been a popular guy in the neighborhood.
Well, he was, and I've been around boats my whole life. I used to, I was a pretty good athlete, and I'm big, and I was strong when I was younger, and I used to crew all the time. Hey, we're sailing over to here, and we need somebody strong, and you are the one. I said, okay, let's go. I used to do that all the time, and my dad used to be friends with Ralph Larrabee, and he had the Goodwill, which was a 180-foot schooner that was in Newport for a long time. And he used to go out. They used to sail down to Mexico together with a bunch of people, and then it was a lot of fun. I mean, we grew up around Newport, both boating and fishing, and the whole coast really. And inland too, so we did a lot of freshwater stuff. It was most of my life has been based around water. I remember the day. The first, I must have been about 8. I think my parents just wanted some private time away from me. So they said you could. We were camped up on Lake Gregory in a cabin, and they said you could take that rowboat out by yourself. I went, really? And I went out on this rowboat by myself. I was fishing, but just to be on the water by yourself in a boat as a kid, that was the beginning of the understanding of freedom. It was wonderful.
Well, I say that in every show, that there's no place like being out in the water in the fresh air and sunshine and beautiful sunny Southern California. And we're going through opening day season for the yacht clubs in the Midwest and the East Coast. It's a big deal because people have got to take their boats from storage and their lakes and the marinas have got to be free of ice. Here, it's a tradition, but our marinas and lakes don't really freeze up. But you mentioned Lake Gregory, and the Lake Gregory Yacht Club is snowed in. I think the clubhouse up there got buried in snow this last season. I'm going to have someone from their club hopefully come on the show. But Lake Gregory is a wonderful place up there. God, that's exciting. Yeah, 75 years of outdoor recreational show production. So down in Long Beach, so it's at Long Beach Convention Center and the marina down there. You're going to have quite a big footprint.
Yeah, we're actually don't have boats in the marina this year. We have had in the past. Right now, we do not have, but we will in the future. I only had a few months to put this together, so this is a work in progress. We'll be back by next year in full swing, but right now it's going to be great. With all the craziness that went on and legal issues and other things, that we were not able to get 20% of the exhibit hall portion of the convention center. They have a small trade show in there, but we have all the sports arena, all the lobby, 80% of the exhibit hall, and all the grounds out. So we have stuff everywhere outside. Now, the thing about us is that my dad always said, he said two things. So one of the things he said, he would tell the boat dealers, they would say, why do you have all that stuff, that crazy stuff that you do? You have the jumping dogs, and you have the lumberjack shows, and you have the racing ducks, and you have kids fish free trap on. What's that got to do with us selling boats? And my dad would say, let me put it to you this way. If a guy walks in here and he sees your very expensive boat over there, do you think he's going to write that check without talking to his wife? and so that kind of shut them up, and they got back in line. But the real reason is what we want to do is we want to provide a full day's worth of family entertainment for the entire family, because that's going to build more boaters and more fishermen and more outdoor recreation enthusiasts. And so we let all kids under 16 free. That's why when that scout troop comes in, none of those kids are going to pay. They have to have an adult with them. They have to have a couple adults if they have too many. But the kids do not pay. And we have the kids fish free trout pond, like I said, and we have the Ultimate Air Dog sponsored by Ford, and we have the Convict Leg Paul Bunyan Lumberjack show, and we have John Petty, who's producing the Great American Duck Races, which kids love. We have casting in the city from the Department of Fish and Wildlife that they do. They do casting contests for kids. It's just we have over 400 seminars in 5 days. It is an absolutely wonderful place to spend time. We have you can test a kayak or an SUP on the lagoon. You can cast in the lagoon. Inside of the show, on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, there's a 3-day fly fishing expedition put on by the Southwest Council of Fly Fishers International. There's just, if I start telling you everything, we'll be here for 2 days.
Well, we are a short show. It has been wonderful having you on. The Bard Hall show down in Long Beach coming up next week. I'll be there for the duration. And if you're anywhere in Southern California, come on down to Long Beach. And Bart, it's been wonderful having you come on. We didn't have enough time. I'd like to chat a little bit more, do another show with you in the future, and I will definitely be down there and hope to see all my friends and anyone listening. And you got to get me some stuff to put up on my website so people can link right to the show and find out, because a lot of exciting stuff. The highlight of my year is going to be this show. So I want to thank you for coming on the show and sharing your time and your experiences and your family history with me, Captain Rick, at the Boating Hour.
Thank you, Rick. I really appreciate it.
That's wonderful.
It was fun.
Well, that's all the time we have for you today, and I hope you enjoyed our show and our wonderful guest. If you're anywhere in Southern California, make it to Long Beach, to Bart Hall Boat Show and outdoor camping and recreation. What a wonderful time you'll have. As always, we're so very fortunate to have such wonderful and exciting guests. And let's not forget the Coasties, protecting our waters, America's lifesavers and guardians of the sea. Coming up in May, the Armed Service Parade down in Torrance, the longest, oldest running parade, one of the most prestigious Armed Service parades in the country. So that's coming up, and we're going to be talking about Fleet Week at the Battleship Iowa. We'll have some people from the Navy as well. So thanks for being with us today. Please be sure to join us next week and every Saturday at 4 p.m. on AM 870. Keep your emails coming. This is Captain Rick saying ahoy and fair winds to all.
Life is uncertain. It's okay to feel stressed, anxious, worried, or frustrated. It's normal. With CalHope's free and secure mental health resources, it's easy to get the help you and your loved ones need when you need it the most. Call our warm line at 833-317-4673 or live chat at calhope.org today.